They arrived on a Tuesday. The massive obsidian ships darkened skies across every major city on Earth simultaneously, their hulls absorbing light rather than reflecting it. Each vessel stretched nearly 3 kilometers across, a perfect geometric octahedron that defied known physics as it hovered silently above metropolises from New York to Shanghai, London to Mumbai. Commander Vexthal stood at the command deck of the flagship, his 4 arms crossed in satisfaction. The Grand Dominion had conquered 17 galaxies over 13 millennia. Earth would be just another footnote in their glorious expansion. Primitive civilization detected, his sensor officer reported. Technology level. Subgalactic. Recommendation. Standard intimidation protocol. Vexthal's mouthparts clicked in what passed for a smile among the Kravasic species. Excellent. Begin the broadcast. Around the world, all electronic devices simultaneously activated. Screens displayed the imposing figure of Vexthal, towering 3 meters tall, chitinous exoskeleton gleaming under the harsh lights of his command center, compound eyes reflecting countless tiny versions of the camera recording him. People of Earth, the translation matrix rendered his clicks and whistles into every human language simultaneously. I am Supreme Commander Vexthal of the Grand Dominion. Your planet now belongs to us. Resistance is not merely futile, it is extinct. No civilization has withstood our might in 13,000 years. Surrender your resources and accept servitude, or face annihilation. The broadcast cut off abruptly. At United Earth Defense Headquarters beneath the Alps, Admiral Helena Drake watched the transmission with mild interest, sipping her coffee. The room remained calm. No panic, no rushed orders, just the quiet hum of quantum computers and occasional murmur of conversation. They certainly have a flair for the dramatic, she remarked, setting down her mug. Assessment. Director Marcus Wells, head of xenoanthropology, leaned forward. Classic Type II expansion civilization. Technological advancement stagnated around interstellar travel. They've built their entire society on conquest, rather than innovation. Their technology is, he checked the readings, approximately 20,000 years behind ours. Poor bastards, someone muttered. Admiral Drake nodded. Admiral Takahashi, your recommendation. The elderly Japanese admiral stroked his white beard thoughtfully. Protocol dictates we offer surrender terms first. It would be impolite not to. Laughter rippled through the command center. Very well, Drake said, pressing a button. Let's follow protocol. In the flagship of the Grand Dominion, Vexthal was puzzled. The primitives should be panicking. There should be military responses, however futile. There should be terrified leaders begging for terms. Instead, there was nothing. Sir, his communications officer called out, we're receiving a transmission from the planet. Put it through, Vexthal ordered, mandibles twitching in anticipation. A hologram appeared, a gray-haired human female wearing a simple blue uniform with minimal decorations. Supreme Commander Vexthal, she said calmly, I am Admiral Helena Drake of United Earth Defense. On behalf of humanity, I would like to offer you the opportunity to surrender. Vexthal's translator must have malfunctioned. You offer U.S. surrender terms. Admiral Drake smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. Yes. Power down your weapons, submit to boarding, and we'll arrange for your safe passage home. You have 1 hour to comply. The transmission ended. Vexthal's rage was absolute. Prepare all weapons. We will turn their cities to glass. His weapons officer hesitated. Sir, our sensors are detecting something unusual. Explain, Vexthal hissed. The humans. They're laughing. The Grand Dominion's fleet remained suspended above Earth's cities, weapons primed but unfired. Supreme Commander Vexthal's order to attack had been countermanded by his own caution when sensors detected unusual energy readings emanating from the planet below. Analysis, he demanded. His science officer, a spindly creature with 12 appendages working multiple interfaces, looked troubled. Inconclusive, Commander. Our technology cannot identify the energy signatures. They appear to be impossible. Nothing is impossible, Vexthal snapped. The Grand Dominion has conquered 17 galaxies. Sir, the communications officer interrupted. The humans are broadcasting again, planet-wide. This time, Admiral Drake's transmission was public, visible on every Dominion ship and to every sentient being on Earth. Supreme Commander, she began pleasantly, I notice you've declined our generous offer of surrender. While disappointing, it's not unexpected. Allow me to explain something about humanity that 13,000 years of unchallenged conquest may have left you unprepared for. She gestured, and the transmission expanded to show what appeared to be a museum. The camera panned across artifacts, primitive projectile weapons, early nuclear devices, rudimentary spacecraft. This is what we called weapons 10,000 years ago, Drake continued. While you were beginning your conquests, we were still killing each other with sticks and stones. But unlike your species, we didn't stop innovating. The display shifted to increasingly sophisticated technology, culminating in devices that even Vexithal's experienced eyes couldn't comprehend. Humanity united 5,000 years ago. We solved our energy crisis 4,000 years ago. We mastered manipulation of matter and space-time 3,000 years ago. Drake's voice remained conversational, as if discussing the weather. We could have expanded, conquered, followed your path. Instead, we chose to look inward, perfect ourselves, and prepare. Because the universe is vast, and we always knew someone like you would eventually arrive. Vexthal felt a chill run through his exoskeleton. This is deception. If you possessed such power, you would have expanded beyond your world. Drake smiled again. Why would we need to? Everything we require is here. We've been watching your dominion for centuries. You weren't exactly subtle, crashing through the cosmos like children with new toys. On his command deck, alerts began sounding. Sir, unknown objects approaching all vessels. His tactical officer shouted. Outside the massive invasion ships, small silver spheres, no larger than a human hand, appeared by the thousands, surrounding each vessel in perfect geometric formations. These are standard diplomatic interface units, Drake explained. Completely harmless observation platforms. They're simply establishing a connection with your vessel's systems to facilitate communication. Before Vexthal could respond, every system on his ship flickered momentarily. Connection complete, Drake said. We now have access to your historical archives, strategic databases, and technological schematics. Fascinating. Your species has so much potential, yet you've wasted it on 13 millennia of stagnation. Vexthal slammed his primary arms against his command console. Attack. Destroy those devices and fire on the planet. Nothing happened. I'm afraid we've temporarily disabled your offensive capabilities, Drake said, her tone apologetic. First contact protocol requires we prevent newcomers from harming themselves or others during initial interactions. It's for everyone's safety. The commander of the mightiest armada in known space felt something he hadn't experienced since his larval stage. Fear. What do you want? He asked. To welcome you properly to Earth, Drake replied. We're dispatching diplomatic vessels now. Your crew will be invited to experience human hospitality while we discuss the terms of your integration into the Galactic Community Charter. Integration. Vexthal sputtered. The Grand Dominion integrates others. We do not become integrated. Drake's expression turned surprisingly gentle. Everyone says that at first. Trust me, Commander Vexthal. By this time next year, you'll be wondering why you ever wanted to conquer anyone at all. As if on cue, sleek silver vessels emerged from Earth's atmosphere, heading toward the Dominion fleet with impossible speed. First contact had begun. Professor Alistair Montgomery guided the small group of Kravasic officers through the Cultural Exchange Center in what had once been called Switzerland. The aliens moved awkwardly in Earth's gravity, their chitinous exoskeletons clicking against the polished floor. This facility was constructed specifically for your visit, Montgomery explained, his voice cheerful despite the fact that just 3 days ago, these same beings had threatened to enslave humanity. Each section showcases a different aspect of human history, achievement, and cultural development. Sub-Commander Krulvox, Vexthal's second-in-command, clicked his mandibles skeptically. Why show us your weaknesses and development? In conquest, only the final strength matters. Montgomery smiled kindly. That perspective is precisely why we designed this tour, Sub-Commander. They entered a vast circular chamber where the walls displayed an interactive timeline of human history, wars, plagues, technological breakthroughs, artistic movements, philosophical revolutions, all flowing together in a hypnotic visual narrative. Unlike your dominion, which erases the history of conquered worlds, we preserve everything, Montgomery said. Our mistakes especially. They're our greatest teachers. He gestured to a section depicting ancient conflicts. For thousands of years, humans fought each other constantly. We were brutal, short-sighted, tribal. By your species' standards, perfect conquest material. The display shifted to show the last global conflict, over 8,000 years earlier. Then we changed. Not overnight, and not easily. Many believed it impossible, that violence was inherent to our nature. They were wrong. Meanwhile, aboard the Dominion flagship, Commander Vexthal was experiencing his own form of education. Admiral Drake had personally come aboard, completely alone and unarmed, demonstrating either insanity or absolute confidence. Your vessels have been temporarily integrated into our network, she explained, leading him through his own ship, as if she designed it herself. We've taken the liberty of updating your life support, propulsion, and communication systems. You modified my ships without permission. Vexthal hissed, forearms clenching in rage. We improved them, Drake corrected. Your previous systems were killing your crew slowly. Micro-radiation leaks, toxic material outgassing, neural interface degradation. Your scientists have been making the same design errors for 10,000 years because no one questioned the original templates. She stopped at a viewport, gazing out at Earth below. That's the fundamental flaw in conquest cultures, Commander. Innovation stops. Questions become dangerous. The past becomes sacred. Eventually, you're just repeating the same patterns while the universe evolves around you. Vexthal wanted to strike her, to demonstrate the Dominion's strength through violence, as he had on countless worlds. But something held him back. Curiosity, perhaps, or the unsettling awareness that this small, soft creature showed no fear whatsoever in his presence. If you're so evolved, he challenged instead, why haven't we detected evidence of your civilization across the stars? The Grand Dominion has mapped 80% of this galaxy. You don't exist beyond this planet. Drake's smile was enigmatic. Commander, have you ever considered that the most advanced civilizations might not leave obvious footprints? That genuine mastery might look like invisibility. Back at the Cultural Exchange Center, Montgomery had brought the alien delegation to the centerpiece exhibition, a massive holographic display of the solar system. But rather than showing planets as they appeared in reality, this display revealed layers of human activity invisible to conventional observation. These are our Dyson swarms, Montgomery explained, indicating the barely visible geometric patterns surrounding the sun. They'd been harvesting solar energy at near-perfect efficiency for 6,000 years. He zoomed in on what appeared to be empty space between planets. These are our habitats, over 40 billion humans living throughout the solar system in environments perfectly tailored to human flourishing. Krulvox's compound eyes widened. Impossible. Our sensors detected only 7 billion life forms on your planet. 7 billion chose to remain on Earth's surface, Montgomery corrected. The rest preferred other accommodations. Your sensors only detected what they were programmed to look for, planetary surface dwellers. As the aliens struggled to process this revelation, Montgomery delivered the final blow. And these, he said, indicating tiny points of light scattered throughout the solar system, are the gateways, currently inactive out of courtesy during your visit. Gateways to what? One of the alien officers asked. Everywhere, Montgomery replied simply. Commander Vexthal stood rigid with tension as the small transport vessel carried him and Admiral Drake away from his fleet. He had agreed to this personal tour only under duress. His ships remained effectively neutralized, his crew scattered across various human facilities for cultural exchange. "Where exactly are you taking me?" he demanded. Drake smiled that infuriating smile again. "To meet some friends. I think you'll find them instructive." The transport accelerated beyond what Vexthal knew should be possible, the stars outside blurring momentarily before resolving into an unfamiliar configuration. Impossible. They couldn't have traveled that far instantly. "Welcome to Proxima Centauri," Drake said casually. "Our nearest stellar neighbor." Vexthal's mandibles clicked in agitation. Deception. No technology can traverse interstellar distances instantaneously. Not instantaneously, Drake corrected. It took approximately 1.3 seconds. We try not to violate causality when avoidable. The ship approached what appeared to be a massive crystalline structure orbiting Proxima's habitable planet. As they drew closer, Vexthal realized it wasn't a single structure but billions of interconnected habitats forming a partial Dyson shell around the planet. 60 billion humans live here, Drake explained. We began settling this system 7,000 years ago. Inside one of the primary habitats, Vexthal was introduced to beings he initially mistook for another alien species. They resembled humans in basic form, but their skin shimmered with embedded crystalline lattices, and their eyes reflected light in ways that suggested fundamental biological differences. "These are the Proxima adapted," Drake explained. "Humans who chose to modify themselves to thrive in this particular stellar environment." A tall figure with silver-blue skin approached. "Welcome, Commander Vexthal. I am Director Eliana Morgenstern. I'm only partially biological at this point, about 30% original human cellular structure." Vexthal struggled to maintain his composure. "You modified yourselves voluntarily?" "Of course," Morgenstern replied. "Adaptation is preferable to conquest. We change ourselves to suit environments rather than forcing environments to suit us. Far more efficient." Meanwhile, back on Earth, Sub-Commander Krulvox and his delegation were being shown something equally disturbing to their Dominion worldview. Professor Montgomery had taken them to what humans called a historical simulation center. The aliens found themselves virtually standing on ancient Earth, witnessing pivotal moments in human development. "This is Earth approximately 10,000 years ago," Montgomery explained as they watched primitive humans struggle with basic agriculture. "Notice the similarities to the species you've conquered: tribal, violent, superstitious." The simulation accelerated, showing the rise and fall of empires, the development of increasingly destructive weapons, environmental catastrophes, and near-extinction events. "By all reasonable predictions, we should have annihilated ourselves," Montgomery continued. "Every model suggested we would." The Fermi paradox, the question of why we hadn't detected other advanced civilizations, led many to believe self-destruction was the inevitable fate of intelligent life. The simulation reached humanity's darkest hour: ecosystem collapse, resource wars, and technological threats that nearly ended all human life. Then came the choice, Montgomery said as the simulation showed global devastation gradually giving way to renewal. Humanity collectively decided that our existing path was unsustainable. Not immediately, not without resistance, but eventually we chose differently. Krulvox watched in silence as the simulation depicted humanity's transformation, from conquest to cooperation, from expansion to elevation, from consumption to creation. The most difficult lesson, Montgomery said quietly, was learning that true power comes not from controlling others, but from mastering ourselves. Back at Proxima Centauri, Drake was showing Vexthal something even more disturbing to his worldview. "This is one of our gate networks," she explained, indicating a shimmering portal embedded in the habitat's central hub. It connects to similar gates throughout explored space. How many worlds have you colonized? Vexthal asked, dreading the answer. Drake shook her head. We don't colonize in the way you understand it. We connect. There are currently 12,742 habitable worlds in our network, but we've only established permanent human presence on about 4,000. The others belong to their indigenous species or remain untouched reserves. And the rest of your fleet? Vexthal asked. Surely you maintain military forces beyond Earth. Drake's expression turned serious for the first time. Commander, what you saw orbiting Earth wasn't our fleet. Those were civilian observation platforms and diplomatic vessels. Our actual defense capabilities remain dormant. For everyone's sake, let's hope they stay that way. In a secure conference room beneath the Himalayas, the United Earth Council convened to discuss the Dominion situation. 23 humans of various appearances sat around a circular table, while quantum entanglement fields connected them to representatives across the solar system and beyond. The question before us, Council President Ortega began, is what to do with our visitors. Admiral Drake, your assessment. Drake's hologram shimmered as she responded from Proxima Centauri. The Kravazic are not inherently more aggressive than humans were at a similar developmental stage. Their problem is cultural stagnation. 13,000 years of conquest has left them with rigid hierarchies and limited imagination. Can they change? Asked Counselor Adeyemi, her dark features creased with concern. History suggests conquest cultures rarely transform without collapse. I believe they can, Drake replied. Commander Vexthal has shown surprising adaptability during our demonstrations. His neural patterns indicate genuine curiosity beneath the conditioned responses. Meanwhile, aboard what remained of the Dominion command ship, Vexthal and his reunited senior officers were having their own crisis meeting. They could have destroyed us at any moment. Sub-Commander Krelvok stated, his usual aggressive posture notably diminished. Their technology exceeds ours by magnitudes we cannot even measure. The humans are obviously lying, Science Officer Mechtel countered. No species could advance so far without expanding territorially. It violates every principle of evolutionary competition. Vexthal clicked his mandibles thoughtfully. Perhaps that's precisely what they did differently. They competed against their own limitations rather than against others. The command room fell silent. Such thinking bordered on heresy in Dominion philosophy. What are our options? Tactical Officer Breskar finally asked. We have 3, Vexthal replied. First, attempt to escape and warn the Dominion. Likely impossible given human capabilities. Second, maintain our conquest stance and be destroyed or eternally contained. Third, he hesitated, accept their offer of cultural exchange and integration into their network. None spoke the obvious truth. The Grand Dominion's 13,000-year expansion had just ended. Back on Earth, Professor Montgomery was showing the alien delegation something few outsiders had ever witnessed, the memory vaults. For 9,000 years, we've preserved the complete neural patterns of every human who consented, he explained as they walked through cavernous chambers filled with crystalline storage matrices. Currently, over 100 trillion human consciousness patterns exist in our collective memory. You preserve your dead, Krelvox asked, struggling with the concept. Not exactly dead, Montgomery corrected. Most exist in virtual environments of their choosing. Others merge partially with our shared knowledge systems. Some choose temporary embodiment for specific purposes. A few even serve as mentors and advisors to the Council. He stopped before a particular matrix that glowed with unusual intensity. This is the composite consciousness of our first unifiers, the generation that guided humanity through the choice. When facing particularly difficult decisions, we still consult them. As if on cue, the matrix pulsed, and a figure materialized before them. An elderly human with dark skin and eyes that somehow reflected starlight despite being indoors. "Welcome, visitors," the apparition said. I am Composite Elder Amara. I lived physically during the final resource wars, 8,342 years ago. I have been asked to address you directly." The Kravasic officers froze, their cultural programming offering no protocol for addressing what they would consider a spirit. "Your species stands where we once stood," Elder Amara continued, her voice carrying the weight of millennia. "Your path of conquest is not unique. It is, in fact, tediously common. We followed it ourselves until we recognized its inevitable conclusion." Images appeared around them. Planetary systems stripped of resources, species driven to extinction, civilizations crushed under the weight of empire. "Conquest economies always collapse," she stated simply. "They must continuously expand to survive, creating a mathematical certainty of eventual failure. Your dominion has lasted longer than most, but its end was always inevitable." Elder Amara's expression softened. "But endings can become beginnings. Humanity doesn't offer you subjugation or destruction. We offer you transformation. The same choice we made ourselves." As the apparition faded, Professor Montgomery addressed the stunned aliens. "Tomorrow, Commander Vexthal will be asked to make a decision on behalf of your people. Tonight, reflect on what you've seen." In the depths of space, aboard the human vessel returning to Earth, Vexthal stared out at the stars, his worldview crumbling with each passing moment. "Why show me all this?" he finally asked Admiral Drake. "Why not simply destroy us and end the threat?" Drake's answer was simple: "Because 13,000 years ago, that's exactly what we would have done. And we're trying very hard not to be those people anymore." Morning broke over Earth's Himalayan complex, sunlight filtering through quantum-filtered windows to illuminate the grand meeting chamber where humanity's fate had been decided countless times over millennia. Today, it would witness another pivotal moment, not for humanity, but for the Grand Dominion. Commander Vexthal stood alone at the center of the chamber, his four arms held stiffly at his sides according to Kravasic formal posture. Around him, in rising semicircular tiers, sat representatives of humanity's governance: the United Earth Council, various scientific directorates, cultural preservation committees, and diplomatic corps. Admiral Drake entered last, taking her position at the speaker's podium. "Commander Vexthal of the Grand Dominion," she began formally, "before you render your decision regarding our offer of integration, there is one final truth you must understand. A revelation we share only with species who demonstrate capacity for transformation." The chamber darkened, and a three-dimensional stellar map materialized around them all. Billions of stars, countless galaxies, spanning what appeared to be the entire observable universe. "This," Drake continued, "is our current map of intelligent life." Points of light began to appear throughout the map. First hundreds, then thousands, then millions of distinct markers in different colors and shapes. Green markers represent naturally evolved sapient species, Drake explained as countless green dots illuminated. Blue represents technologically advanced civilizations. Yellow shows species currently in their development phase. Vexthal watched in stunned silence as the map came alive with colors, showing the universe teeming with intelligence. All his life, he had been taught that sentient life was rare, that the Dominion had conquered most known examples of it. Red markers, Drake continued more solemnly, indicate extinct civilizations. A wash of red spread across certain sections of the galaxy map. Thousands of points where intelligence had flickered and died. Of these extinctions, approximately 60% were natural, evolutionary dead ends, astronomical disasters, planetary catastrophes. The remaining 40% were caused by conquest cultures similar to your Dominion. The map zoomed in on one particular spiral galaxy. This is what you know as the Carthaginian Void. A region your astronomers discovered contains virtually no detectable intelligent life despite favorable conditions. Vexthal nodded. The great mystery of our astronomical records. 3,000 habitable worlds, yet no civilizations. It wasn't always empty, Drake said quietly. The map shifted, showing the same region as it had existed 20,000 years earlier, teeming with life, interconnected civilizations spanning hundreds of star systems. This was the HFY Collective, the first conquest culture to achieve intergalactic travel capability in this region of space. They expanded rapidly, consuming resources and subjugating lesser species. Their empire lasted nearly 30,000 years. Vexthal's mandibles twitched in recognition. We found artifacts, remnants of incredible technology in that region. Our scientists could never determine their origin. Drake nodded. The HFY followed the same path as your dominion, only they advanced much further. Eventually, they encountered a limit, a boundary beyond which conquest becomes problematic. The simulation showed the HFY civilization suddenly collapsing. Stars going dark, connections severing, entire worlds disappearing from the map. What happened to them? Vexthal asked, dreading the answer. Drake's expression remained neutral. They encountered the caretakers. The chamber fell silent. Even the human counselors seemed to hold their breath. Humanity is not the apex civilization, Commander, Drake continued. We are merely the designated representatives for this sector of the galaxy. The true guardians of cosmic order exist beyond our comprehension. The stellar map zoomed out further, revealing patterns that Vexthal initially mistook for mapping artifacts. Vast geometric structures spanning multiple galaxies, networks of impossible energy signatures connecting distant superclusters. Approximately 1 million years ago, as several conquest cultures simultaneously reached extinction-level technologies, the caretakers established the Compact, a set of principles designed to preserve intelligent life across the cosmos. Advanced civilizations that demonstrate capacity for coexistence are invited to join. Those that refuse. The map showed dozens of red zones throughout the universe, entire regions where intelligent life had been meticulously excised. Earth was contacted 50,000 years ago, long before we achieved technological sophistication. Drake explained. We were given a choice, develop toward harmony or face extinction, when we reached the boundary. It took us 30,000 years of struggle to finally choose correctly. Vexthal's exoskeleton trembled slightly. And my people, the Dominion. You've reached the boundary, Commander, Drake said simply. The caretakers have authorized us to offer you the same choice we received. Your 13,000 years of conquest can end with transformation or termination. At that moment, Vexthal understood with perfect clarity. The laughing humans hadn't been arrogant. They had been relieved. Their strange confidence wasn't bravado. It was the certainty of those who had already faced their greatest trial and survived. How long do I have to decide? He asked. That, Admiral Drake replied, is entirely up to you. 3 months after the Dominion fleet's arrival, Earth's cities no longer lived under the shadow of alien vessels. The massive obsidian ships had been relocated to Jupiter's orbit, where they were being systematically studied, improved, and in some cases, repurposed. Commander Vexthal, now bearing the title Transition Coordinator, stood in low Earth orbit aboard the human diplomatic vessel Reconciliation. From this vantage point, he could see both his homeworld's fleet and the blue-green jewel of Earth below. It still surprises me, he remarked to Admiral Drake, who stood beside him at the viewport, how quickly my officers adapted to the transition. Drake smiled. Conquest cultures demand rigid obedience and hierarchical thinking. Once that structure breaks down, the natural sapient tendency toward cooperation often emerges rapidly. The door behind them slid open as Professor Montgomery entered, accompanied by Sub-Commander Krulvox, whose formerly aggressive posture had softened considerably during his time on Earth. The first 20 gateway terminals have been successfully integrated into your command ships, Montgomery reported. The Council has approved access to 3 developmental worlds initially, with more to follow as the integration progresses. Krulvox clicked his mandibles in what humans had learned was an expression of satisfaction. Our engineering teams are already implementing the educational protocols you suggested. The neural interfaces will allow our people to experience the historical simulations directly. Vexthal turned from the viewport. And the communication array. Completed. Drake confirmed. You can address the entire Dominion whenever you're ready. The four of them moved to the ship's communication center, where a quantum-entangled broadcast system had been configured to penetrate the vast distances to Dominion space instantaneously, technology the Kravasic would have considered impossible just months earlier. Vexthal positioned himself before the recording array, his carapace polished to formal presentation standards, the traditional symbols of Dominion authority conspicuously absent from his attire. Begin transmission, he ordered. Throughout Dominion space, across 17 subjugated galaxies, encompassing over 60,000 conquered worlds, and nearly 1 trillion sentient beings of various species, communication systems activated simultaneously. The face of their Supreme Fleet Commander appeared on screens, in neural interfaces, and via holographic projections. People of the Dominion, Vexthal began. I speak to you from Sol System, home of the human civilization. 3 months ago, I led our greatest fleet to conquer this world, as we have conquered countless others over 13 millennia. He paused, allowing the familiar narrative to establish itself before shattering it. I failed, not through weakness or tactical error, but through encountering a truth the Dominion has denied since its founding. The path of conquest leads only to extinction. Across Dominion space, confusion rippled through military bases and administrative centers. Such words from a fleet commander would normally be treated as evidence of enemy coercion or insanity. The humans could have destroyed us, Vexthal continued. Instead, they offered perspective. The universe is not as we have been taught. Intelligent life is not rare. It is abundant. The Dominion is not the apex of civilization. We are children playing at empire, while true cosmic powers watch with growing concern. He gestured, and the transmission expanded to include the stellar map Drake had shown him, revealing the true extent of cosmic civilization. Today, I invoke the Succession Protocol, Vexthal announced. The Succession Protocol was the Dominion's contingency for catastrophic leadership failure, a rarely used mechanism that transferred command authority when regular chains broke down. As of this transmission, I am dissolving the Conquest Directorates and establishing the Transition Council. Over the coming years, representatives will be invited to Earth to witness what I have witnessed, learn what I have learned, and help guide our people toward integration rather than extinction. He leaned closer to the transmission array, his compound eyes reflecting the light of Earth's sun. For 13,000 years, we have lived by the Dominion's founding principle, strength through conquest. Today, we adopt a new principle, growth through understanding. Our future depends on it. As the transmission ended, silence fell across the communication center. What Vexthal had just done would send shockwaves through the Dominion. The pending power structures, challenging fundamental beliefs, and inevitably meeting resistance. It will not be easy, he acknowledged. Civil war is possible. Many will choose to fight rather than adapt. Admiral Drake placed a hand on his carapace, a gesture that would have been unthinkable months ago. Transformation never is easy. Humanity's path took thousands of years and nearly destroyed us several times. But you will not walk this path alone, Professor Montgomery added. Earth will stand with you, as will the other 417 members of the Compact. On the main display, responses were already flooding in from across Dominion space. Confusion, anger, relief, hope, defiance. The greatest empire the Kravasic had ever known was beginning its metamorphosis. There is one thing I still don't understand, Vexthal said as they watched the reactions pour in. If the caretakers are so powerful, why do they allow younger species to make their own mistakes? Why not simply impose harmony from the beginning? Drake's smile held a hint of sadness. The caretakers believe that wisdom cannot be granted. It must be earned. Each species must find its own path to understanding. Some never do. Outside the viewport, Earth continued its serene rotation, clouds swirling across blue oceans, green continents teeming with life. A world that had faced its own extinction multiple times and emerged transformed. Krulvox, who had been silent until now, clicked thoughtfully. When we arrived, the humans laughed at our threats. Now I understand why. Yes, Vexthal agreed. To them, we were not conquerors to be feared, but children to be educated. As the reconciliation began its descent toward Earth, carrying the first architects of the Dominion's transformation, Admiral Drake offered a final observation. The universe has one irrefutable law, Commander. Species that cannot learn to coexist eventually cease to exist. Earth learned this lesson. Today, your people begin learning it too. Beyond the solar system, beyond even the capacity of Dominion sensors to detect, ancient awareness shifted marginally. Acknowledging that another potential extinction had been averted, the caretakers returned to their eternal vigilance, as they had for millions of years before humans walked the Earth, and would for millions of years after. War had returned after 13,000 years, but not in the way anyone expected. Instead of destruction, it had brought revelation. Instead of conquest, transformation. Instead of ending, beginning. And somewhere in the cosmic equation, that made all the difference,